Welcome to The Record Show, your virtual spin around the vinyl industry. Brought to you by Radio Wasteland Records. Yes, Midland has a record store. Here's your host, Jim Gleason.
Greetings from the Wasteland and welcome once again to The Record Show. If you're new to the channel, please do us a big favor and hit that subscribe button. We wouldn't want you to miss out on any of the cool stuff we've got coming up over the next several weeks. Coming up on today's show, though, we'll talk once again with Ken Norton of Ingram Entertainment to get the latest on this week's new vinyl releases, as well as some very cool albums coming to an indie record store near you very soon. We'll also pass along another Discogs tip and explore the new, well, to me at least, genre of erotic polka. But first, let's take a closer look at a very cool and a very big box set release from this last week. Hopefully, many of you have at least heard of the band Husker Du.
Hi, I'm Bob Mould. I live down the street. You must be the new Bill Maher.
It's been a while since I've been called the new anything. Welcome. I've heard about you. You're the one that sings, right?
Yeah, I sing, right or wrong.
I like the old music. Do you remember Husker Du?
No, never heard of it.
Bob Mould was born in New York, but attended Macalester College in Minneapolis, St. Paul. There, he formed the band Husker Du in the late 1970s. That clip, by the way, was from the first iteration of The Daily Show. And Bob Mould's connection to that? From Minneapolis, Mould is friends with a woman named Liz Winstead, and she is the co-creator of The Daily Show and served as the head writer during those early years. And it's Mould's song, Dog on Fire, that has served as the theme song from The Daily Show since it premiered in 1996. Side note, the current version of that theme song is performed by They Might Be Giants. Anyhow, back to Husker Du. They were at the forefront of the hardcore punk scene and then later big in alternative music genres. Husker Du never really went beyond a slight amount of commercial success, and the band broke up in 1988. Their legacy, carrying forward, is often cited as one of the key influences on later 1990s alternative rock bands like the Pixies and Nirvana. Following the breakup of Husker Du, Mould soon released his first solo album, Workbook, in 1989. He followed that up with Black Sheets of Rain in 1990. That was a little louder and angrier than the lighter-toned Workbook and more in tune with what Husker Du was toward the end of their days. After that, Mould formed the group Sugar in 1992 and then went on to release two albums with them, Copper Blue and File Under Easy Listening, and one EP called Beaster. He then moved into what's referred to his second solo period, lasting from 1996 through today. In all, 15 solo albums and 3 Sugar releases. This brings us to last week's big box set release. Last year, Mould released the first of what would be 4 career-spanning box sets called the Distortions, aptly titled giving his wall of sound guitar style. The first of these, Distortions 1989 through 1995, covered his first solo works and those Sugar releases. The second Distortion set, the one that was released last week, is 1996 through 2007, and it covers his mid-career solo work from 1996 through 2007. See how that works? This is a 9 LP set, and it includes the 6 studio albums and a new compilation of rarities. Now, there's 2 versions of this, and both of them retail for around $185. The black vinyl version is that 9 LP box set, and it comes with a booklet and other goodies included in on that. But this is the indie exclusive version, and it comes with those same 9 albums, but each of them has a different splatter colored vinyl design on clear. So very cool. This is Bob Mould's solo album, Bob Mould. But each one of them has brand new artwork and a little bit of the included artwork original on the back. So it's a very, very inclusive, very cool, very, very cool set. Now the indie exclusive version also has the added goodie of the booklet that comes with it, but it also has a hand-signed print of Bob Mould's album Modulate, signed by Bob Mould and the artist that created all of the album artwork for the box set. So some very cool additions in there. Not cheap, but it is a great, great set to have if you are a Bob Mould fan. Now, a little word on his music. It is not really for everyone. The majority of it is that fuzz guitar sound, but it's not kind of a random or heavier garage rock sound. This is a very precise fuzz guitar, overmodulated sound in spots. A lot of folks would say, too, that Bob Mould's music tends to sound alike. And I can see that in some respect. But once you get listening to it, there's some great stuff. There's some very artful lyrics. There's some very heavy, meaningful, deep lyrics. And there's some very, very light songs as well in there. Light-hearted songs, rather, as I should say. So this one covers Bob Mould, The Last Dog and Pony Show, Modulate, as we'd mentioned, Long Playing Grooves, Body of Song, Blow Off, and then the 9th LP, Distortions, has those outtakes and rarities, including, as we mentioned, the song Dog on Fire, a demo version of that included on there. Now, the third Distortions box set, I don't have any information on when and where that might be coming, but it will likely cover Bob Mould's later solo work, the latest of which from last year is Blue Hearts. By the way, Blue Hearts, I need to mention, when this album came out, my son took a look at the inner sleeve and liner in there and mentioned that Bob Mould looks to be like the quintessential dad rock guy. Okay, I guess I'll take it from there. But now the fourth set, no information on what that might cover. There is a wide-ranging CD set out there as well that covers all of these, but we're here to talk about the vinyl instead. So if you are unfamiliar with Bob Mould or Husker Du, I encourage you to check them out. The earlier Husker Du stuff, as I mentioned, very punk-like, great college radio alternative music, but then you get into Bob Mould's solo work, and quite frankly, it runs the gamut from being light and airy, like Workbook, some really great acoustical stuff, to the heavier stuff, like Black Sheets of Rain, and into the mid-range albums from Bob Mould and Modulate. Some really, really cool stuff. So do yourself a favor when you get a chance, check it out. You don't have to dive in big on the box set to enjoy them, because Bob Mould's albums can be found. The earlier stuff is in reissue form. There are color vinyl variants of these out there as well. But should you really want to dive in, snag one of the box sets. By the way, these are limited. I think there are around 700, 750 copies of the indie exclusive, with many more of the regular vinyl versions of those. So enjoy. Well, time now once again for a look ahead at new releases that are headed our way this week and in the upcoming weeks. We're joined once again by Ken Norton from Ingram Entertainment. Ken, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Jim? Good morning.
I'm well, thanks, man. It was a busy week last week. We talked about Dire Straits, and lo and behold, folks just went kind of bonkers for that stuff.
It did. I saw that it kind of happened on a national level too. A lot of stores just came back in for more and more of it. Evidently, there was a lot of pent-up demand for those titles, and only at record stores, not online. So our record stores really benefited from that.
Now, that was part of the Rhino Start Your Ear Off Right campaign, correct?
Right. That's right. So, and this week we have 3 more. That's the end of the series. It was all of January, every street date in January, which street date's Friday. There was a set of titles. And this week it's the 3 John Prine titles that were originally only available as what they call the Asylum Years box set, which is a very limited run box that came out for one of the record store days. Those sold out immediately, haven't been available, went for big bucks if you tried to buy them online or something. So they are making those available individually now. The titles are Pink Cadillac, Bruised Orange, and Storm Windows from his Asylum contract years.
So that's a great way. The only place to get those again are your local independent record stores, and so start looking for those on Friday.
Absolutely, exactly right.
Cool. What other big ones we have coming out this week?
Well, this week also there's a Steven Wilson record. Our prog rock friends are gonna love having his, I think, sixth studio album, if I remember right. And
Yep.
that is there's an indie exclusive version of that. Pretty cool. You only get those at indie record stores. That's going to be on red vinyl, and it's a double album at $35.98. Looks like.
Now that the Steven Wilson, it is his sixth. It's called The Future Bites, and I'm not overly familiar with Wilson. And I do need to get up to speed on him, so to speak. But he is known for being a member of Porcupine Tree.
Yes.
And more recently as well, he's had his finger in a whole bunch of prog rock remixes.
Yeah, he's famous for that. So he's remixed. He's evidently just a technical engineering genius, and no kidding. That's not hyperbole. I don't think at all. Because the people who are allowing them to have his master tapes to remix them and put them back out, the list is long, and it's all over the place. I'm trying to think of some people.
Jethro Tull was one, I think,
Tull,
and a lot of other prog rock biggies. King Crimson.
I think he did some Yes records. In fact, I know he did. Also XTC, which isn't exactly prog rock, but kind of bordering on.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, so he's had his fingers in this stuff for years now, and again, I've heard a few of these things, and they do sound astonishingly, just amazing.
Well, cool. Always on the lookout for those if I can see them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ahead of the game, then, what are we looking at in the next couple of weeks down the line?
Well, if you're into Dio, you're in luck because there's a couple of things of interest. A couple of live concerts are coming out on the 12th of February in two different versions. One's called Evil or Divine live in New York City. The other one's called Holy Diver live, sort of classic era, 2005, 2008, respectively, for Dio and the band. Those are coming either on 3 LP sets for $35.98 with a gatefold sleeve and all kinds of art extras and goodies, or you can get it on a lenticular cover for
cool.
a limited edition $38.98, exactly the same except for the lenticular cover. But if you're going to drop $35.98, you might as well spend the extra $3 and get the lenticular on the limited run. Each of these, has a little bit of extra material that weren't on these original issues that have been long out of print.
And it's not just the Dio solo stuff or the Dio that in his backing band. They're getting some Sabbath down the line too, as well, correct?
That's right. And then in March, first Friday in March is these were much anticipated reissues. Two of the Dio era Sabbath records are getting the deluxe reissue treatments. And you probably haven't been able to find these new for quite some time. But Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, both 2 LP deluxe editions, both running at $34.98 with several bonus tracks, some things that haven't been available elsewhere or were really, obscurely hard to find. And
okay, now there's a couple of other goodies coming up on February 5th and the 12th, respectively, from some big names as well.
Sure. The 5th, this is the new Foo Fighters record. That's brand new studio album, all new material. And some people have definitely heard the single. It's been out there on some of your alt rock stations or your AAA stations too. That's going to be one of the biggest brand new studio records of the year thus far.
Okay, and there's also another big one coming out from Weezer on the 12th with a couple of different versions, correct?
That's right. New Weezer record, brand new studio album. And ironically, it jump skips past the Van Weezer record that people had heard about where they're doing like hard rock kind of sound. This one is called OK Human, which is a little play on the OK Computer Radiohead title. But from what I understand, it's not even a Radiohead sounding record, a little bit more of their sort of early Weezer sound, I guess. And that's got an indie exclusive only for indie record stores with a splatter colored vinyl that you can only get limited run, just at your record stores, not online.
Look forward to that then as well. Now there's one more that's a little bit further down the line. We're looking ahead to February 26th on this, and it's hard to believe a 30th anniversary of the Black Crowes. Make your moneymaker. And they've got a few different versions of this on the way, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So it is 30th anniversary. So you can get the regular version, there's a couple albums in that $30 range. Or if you're an Uber fan, and they're out there for sure, absolutely. Black Crowes have never waned in popularity, really. There's a $79.98 box set. And this big jumbo version has super deluxe version, they're calling it. 3 never before heard studio recordings, 2 unreleased demos from the early incarnation of Mr. Crow's Garden, which I mentioned to Jim. I actually recall these guys from back in the 80s when they were. Mr. Crow's Garden was less a Stones influenced rock band and more of a sort of REM influenced jangle band.
That's cool.
And so that's pretty cool. I had not heard these tracks other than maybe live somewhere in this foggy web of memories in my mind there. And then there's a 14-song unreleased concert recorded in Atlanta in 1990. Reproductions of the early Mr. Crow's Garden show flyer, set list, tour laminate, 4-inch Crow's patch, 20-page book with liner notes by David Fricke, and an 8x10 glossy photo box print in the box.
That is definitely a package worth looking out for coming up on February 26th.
Limited to 1,000.
Okay, so that's even going to make it a little more tempting for folks.
1,000 and they're gone. Yeah, you have to have it.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. And as always, we will talk to you again next week and get the lowdown on even more upcoming new releases found only at indie record stores near you. Thank you again.
Okay, thanks.
Our Discogs quick tip for today's show has to do with those of you looking to buy through Discogs. Now, I'm a little biased, and I think that your first choice should be an independent record store, but that's neither here nor there because sometimes even I dip to Discogs to look for something that's a little harder to find. But when you do, please make sure that you are careful with whom you're buying from. As you navigate around the Discogs marketplace, we're using the desktop version for this, typically you would search by title, and that would take you to a listing of that particular title available from multiple sellers. But once you get to a copy that you think you'd like, one thing you want to make sure to do is check out that seller's ratings. You can see the percentage listed as up to 5 stars, and then next to that is a link to check out the seller's individual ratings. Now, sellers that have a large amount of sales can often be a little misleading. But what you really should do is look to see if there are recurring problems with a particular seller's negative feedback. Positives are always good to go to check, but sometimes the negatives can be a little telling. In this case, this seller has a problem with communication, and you see this reflected in several of these negative feedback items that were posted here. So while this particular seller may have an overall decent rating on Discogs in the higher percentages, the negatives can sometimes be a little telling as well. So when I'm looking around on Discogs, I tend to look for sellers that have ratings in the high 90s or near 100%. Even then, I will check out their ratings to see what people are saying about them before placing an order. If you do that, you're guaranteed to have fewer headaches when purchasing from Discogs. As we move forward with the record show, I think it'll be interesting to see how many times in the future I start off segments by saying, I was going through a crate of records the other day. That being said, I was going through a crate of records the other day, doing some cataloging for the store, when I came across something tremendously interesting, I guess is a good way to put it. Here at the Wasteland, we have different categories. We're not a big store, but we do have a lot of genres covered, even if it's just a crate for a certain type of record. That includes polkas. Now, personally, I'm not a big polka fan, and by that I mean not at all. But there is a place for polkas, a very, very popular form of music for many years, and in states like Michigan especially, where we have Eastern European populations that settled here in the early part of the 1900s, that became a very, very important and influential musical form throughout many places. Typically, when we get polka albums into the store, they go into the dollar bin. Now, there are a few exceptions when we get them that have the big three names, like a Frankie Yankovic, a Jimmy Sturr, or a Marv Herzog. Marv Herzog also pushes that button of Michigan artists. So we have a lot of Michigan polkas as well. Thirdly, if a polka album does not go to the dollar bin, it's because it's interesting, to say the least. So that was the case with this one when it came in. It's Spinave Pepik and his Button Accordion, and it is called Czech Party Time. Now, interesting only in the fact that it's got a somewhat suggestive cover for the late 1960s. Can't quite get a date on this, but I'm pegging it for the mid to late 60s as the time frame. The strange part was, though, when I went to catalog this into Discogs, and yes, there was a Discogs page set up for this. The genre listed on Discogs was erotic polka. And then when I saw that, I backed up and said, well, okay, hold on. This says adults only on the cover. And then I read a little bit further onto the liner notes on the back. Now, bear with me for a moment as we cover this. Have you often wondered what younger generations did on a Sunday afternoon or on a rainy day before television and our fast present day of life? This record captures the unusual situations when on a nice day, a young couple might spend an afternoon in the attic. It also tells of the love of life and courting in another era. The happiness and joys that you will hear on this album of songs Grandpa still sings today when Grandma is not around. The songs that you were told not to remember, the laughter and the joy of this Czech Party record will be played over and over again and will bring new ideas and dreams into the head each time. So, on Discogs, someone took the time to create a list of adult polka albums. And as you click on that list and scan around, you'll see that there are some fairly suggestive albums on here. And contained on that is Spinave Pepik's Czech Party Time. Songs on this album include Wandering Wolf, Up in the Attic, he referenced that, Around Her Curves, something called Cradle Pony, Woman Twister, Dirty Birds, In and Out, and finally we wrap up on side 2 with Regina's Panties. So let's file this under You Learn Something New Every Day. There is such a thing as erotic polkas.
Ženu pošlu do roboty za cílenu do peří. Šup sem, šup tam, nám je to všechno jedno, šup